You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Brian Kelly met with reporters out at LSU on Monday. If you're putting together your football weeks, we are all doing the same here as well to remember what's going to happen now. Monday, noon Central, Brian Kelly meets with reporters for his Monday press conference. Next week, Monday's Labor Day, of course, so no press conference Monday. It'll be Tuesday of next week, but thereafter, it'll be Monday, except the open dates. There's no press conference on Monday. So Brian Kelly met with reporters and went through some preview of the USC game and what's coming up this weekend. One of the things that I know we're all going to be very interested in seeing is what happens with the receivers, considering you're replacing 2 first-round picks, and not just the fact that they were first-round picks. You're losing a ton of production. Malik Nabers last year, y'all, in case you forgot, caught 89 passes for 1,569 yards and 14 touchdowns. That's a lot of numbers. You don't have to remember it, but remember, 89 catches, 1,500 yards, and 14 scores. Brian Thomas, 68 catches, nearly 1,200 yards, and 17 scores, which led the country. Combine that, again, you don't need to math, but 157 receptions, 2,700 yards, and 31 touchdowns are now in the NFL. And the crazy thing is, we all feel like you're just not going to miss a beat. You're just going to replace that production with the guys you have. Now, for what it's worth, Brian Kelly mentioned today that Chris Hilton has a bone bruise, is officially questionable. He was asked, okay, if Hilton can't go, then who's the guy that you look at to step up and take Chris Hilton's spot?
Chris will move around today with our trainers. We'll get a better sense of his situation. Kyle Parker will be the next guy up in that situation. He's had a great camp. We feel really good about what he could do for us. And then we can start moving the pieces around a little bit. Xavier Thomas gets a little bit more involved in what we're doing relative to playing out at the field. So, we can move some guys around, but those would be the 2 guys that would be featured a little bit more. Aaron Anderson gets called on a little bit more, and then you can bump, Kyron out to the X as well. So we've got a lot of moving pieces where some guys know multiple positions.
The Xavier Thomas thing is interesting just because I think he's going to play a different role offensively. We've seen this. I'm not guessing. We've seen them run bubble screens with Xavier Thomas. We've seen them run jet sweeps with Xavier Thomas. That's not going to be Chris Hilton's role in this offense. Chris Hilton is more the Brian Thomas role, the stretch the field game breaker. You need to take your deep shot, and you want the dude that's going to leg it out. I mean, Hilton was a track star in high school as well. He has legit game-breaking speed. That's why I've said many times, I think Kyron Lacy, C.J. Daniels are your leading receivers in receptions and yards, but I think Chris Hilton, provided he's healthy, leads you in receiving touchdowns this year, because when you're looking to take a shot, when you need the game breaker, that's Chris Hilton in this offense. I don't think Hilton has 90 receptions like Malik Nabers did a year ago, but I could see Chris Hilton having 50 receptions and 15 touchdowns. I could see that as a very real possibility. But it's interesting because ESPN today looked at and listed the top 100 newcomers in college football. And so that's freshmen, that's transfers in a new spot. And in the 100 that they listed, they did list an LSU player, and the LSU player that they listed was C.J. Daniels. And that is 100% right, because C.J. Daniels, we all know, was a 1,000-yard receiver a year ago, and we talked about that plenty, and it was very evident right away that he was a guy that the size, the ability, the athleticism, all that stuff was going to translate right away to the SEC. And you saw it in spring, and it completely is carried over here in fall camp as well. He's a guy that I think you will right away insert into that spot that I'm not going to say like Brian Thomas a year ago, because I just got done telling you I think stylistically that's the role Chris Hilton fits in this offense. But I'm talking about the production. If Kyron Lacy sort of more mirrors what Malik was. I don't think he's going to have 1,500 receiving yards, but I think Kyron Lacy's year this year could look like Malik's did in 2022. And, 2 years ago in 22, Malik had 72 catches for 1,017 yards. And I think that is very realistic and approachable for Kyron Lacy. I think he could have 70 catches and 1,000 yards this year. Remember, Kyron last year had 30 for 558. So it's very reasonable to expect that Kyron Lacy could double those numbers, that he could go 65 catches for 1,000 yards, 70 catches for 1,000 yards. I think that's very realistic. Daniels is the guy that I think is sort of the wild card in that mix, because you're trying to replace 157 catches. I'm making this math, and I'm not trying to math on the radio, but it's 157 catches. So if Lacy goes from 30 to 70, well, that's there 40 of those catches. So you still got 110 grabs somewhere. Could 50 of them go to Hilton and 50 of them go to CJ Daniels? Yeah, I think that's how it breaks down. I think if you asked me today to put numbers on it, I think Kyron Lacy would have 70 or more, and I think Daniels and Hilton have 50 catches, thereabouts. And then you look at the dozen, 20 catch range thereabouts for guys like Kyle Parker, Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson, who of that mix emerges. But I think for Xavier, it's less the targets and more how they use him. The bubbles, the jet sweeps, those sort of creative ways that they use him, and not just, hey, go on a route and catch 50 balls for us. I just think it's going to be a different way they use Thomas and Aaron Anderson. Of course, Xavier Thomas is going to be your punt returner and your kick returner this year as well. Let me know your thoughts. Agree, disagree with how they use those receivers. But I'm telling you, not based on just something that I'm piecing together. It's from going out to a dozen practices and watching how they use these guys. And Daniels is a guy that also really felt like very quickly emerged as a security blanket for Nussmeier. When there was coverage, and if things were, I don't want to say breaking down, but he had to make a decision to get rid of the football, Daniels time and again felt like the guy that would pop open over the middle of the field. We're watching scrimmages and it's 3rd and 4 and Nuss is patting the ball, looking for Daniels over the middle. Like that's the safety blanket. I think you're going to see a lot of that with CJ Daniels this year. It's 3rd and 4. Who do you go to get the grab to move the sticks? Daniels. That's how I foresee that going. So putting CJ Daniels in the top 100 transfers, impact transfers, I agree. Or newcomers with freshmen and transfers, I agree, because he's a guy who physically fits the mold, and they're clearly they're using it. And Nussmeier feels comfortable there as well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.